patriot, we all are. The kind that will fight each and every day for the ideals of our country. And that's what is at play right now. And so that brings me to my final point. This moment will pass. And years from now, people are going to look at each one of us. It may be our children, our grandchildren, others. They're going to look at us. And they're going to ask, where were you at that inflection moment, at that moment in time? And what I know to be true for the folks in this room is that our answer will not be simply how we felt. It will be what we did, what action we took, that we got out and knocked on doors. We emailed and we texted and we called folks and said, get out because this election is next Tuesday. We did the work of walking and talking about why Ben Jealous should be elected the next governor of Maryland. We took action, we stood out, we spoke up, we did what is necessary to be voices for ourselves, for our communities, and for our country. So I thank you all very much. Let's elect Ben Jealous. I have to go back and vote. So I'm going back to the Capitol. Please take care of him. Please take care of him. Help him.
Well, good evening. Guys, let's hear it for Susie Turnbull, the next week. Show you how things kind of come in a circle. There's a group called Emerge Maryland that's training, there's a group called Emerge that's training women to run across the country. It was started, inspired by Kamala Harris's first campaign. And there's a group called Emerge Maryland that trains women across the state to run for office. And Susie co-founded it on her porch. Susie is not just part of this wave of women running for office across the country for the first time. She has helped build that wave. And for that, she deserves the gratitude of all of us. I want to pick up where my dear friend Senator Harris left off. I want us to think about what we're fighting for, what unites us, what unites the people of this state and of this country. We are fighting for dignity, the universal human right to live a life of dignity. We are fighting for prosperity, what brought so many of us to this state, into this country, with a dream, the American dream, that all of our families could prosper better here. And too often, we are still fighting for safety. And you look at these attacks on immigrant communities, and what is at risk? What is at risk is all of that. When you separate a parent from a child, you don't just impugn the dignity of that parent or that child, you impugn the dignity of our country. We are a country, we are a state within a country that was founded to be a refuge. There would be no Maryland but for the fact there were refugees from religious persecution who needed a place to be safe and raise their families. That's how Maryland comes into being. And our movement, Casa de Maryland, this campaign, the civil rights movement, all of our faiths, at their core is the conviction that Maryland will remain a place where it is safe for every immigrant to raise their family. Woo! For all of us to raise our families. And we will not allow the dignity of the family to be attacked by the state, let alone in such a brutal way. Talk about prosperity. Right now, because Governor Hogan has allowed Trump and Sessions to have their way with our state. Step back from the border for a second. Let's talk about what's happening here. Immigrants who are vital to our economy go to bed at night knowing that their children may wake them up just to make sure mom and dad are still in their beds. Just to make sure mom and dad are still in their beds. Because our governor has allowed law enforcement to become distracted by becoming deputies of immigration. And it's wrong. And if you wonder if it has any impact on you, consider this. You know, my granddad was in law enforcement for 30 years in Baltimore. You'd always say, you know, law enforcement is like anything else. You're doing one thing, you're not doing something else. And so when we allow Maryland law enforcement, when we have a governor who allows Maryland law enforcement to become deputies of ICE, not only does it unleash terror on immigrant families, but it ultimately makes all of us less safe. It makes all of us less safe. Because several things happen all at once. First, law enforcement becomes distracted. They used to have one job, keeping us safe, and now they have two. Keeping us safe and terrorizing immigrants, which means that they're not keeping all of us safe. Two, the gangs, the cartels, it's easier for them to commit crimes because they have less intelligence because they're going to stop talking to the police. And then those gangs and those cartels get even richer because they're able to target immigrant communities for exploitation, knowing that they will not talk to the police. And all of that makes all of us less safe. We have the opportunity to pick up on the great work we did. You know, I developed a bromance with Gustavo back in 2012. When he asked me to co-chair the campaign to pass the DREAM Act. And we have the opportunity. Now this is the first civic leader I went to talk to when I was thinking about running for governor is this guy. Because when Gustavo and I team up, we tend not to lose. And that year, you know, I was chairing, I agreed to co-chair the campaign to pass the DREAM Act. I was already leading the effort to abolish the death penalty. And we were also fighting to pass marriage equality. And I said, Gustavo, you know, that's a lot. And he said, yeah, but won't it work better if we all just do it together? And those signs went up. Abolish the death penalty, pass the DREAM Act, pass marriage equality. And we came together. We adopted the motto of the Three Musketeers. We just said, all for one and one for all. And that year, we didn't just become the first state south of the Mason-Dixon to do any of them. We became the first state south of the Mason-Dixon to do all of them. And so when you hear me say that, yes, we can finally fully fund our schools, we can finally pass Medicare for all, we can end mass incarceration in Maryland, and when we do, we can take the money we save and send it back to our public universities and bring down the cost of higher education. Understand that I'm standing in front of you as somebody who's already worked with you to get big things done. Yes, the things we want to do are big, but why? Because our families deserve to live lives of dignity and expanding opportunity.
That's right.
And increasing safety. One of the things I love about CASA and the community that it pulls together is that it pushes all of us to recognize what we know about our country. That the immigrant experience at any moment in our nation defines our nation in that moment. Mm-hmm. That all of us are connected, that you cannot pull immigrants out of America any more than you can separate a child from a parent. Yep. You are inextricably connected. And the moment that we start to treat immigrants like they are something that America doesn't need, the future of our nation dims. So I want to thank CASA. I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank this beautiful pair of Americans for doing what so many generations have done before. When my grandmother migrated up from the South, she took care of her young girl. What you're doing is absolutely in the tradition of all of our families. We all have those stories. So thank you for your courage. Thank you for loving each other. Thank you for making a better way for your family. I look forward to the day you are reunited with your mom. Thank you and God bless.